You're listening to the Ward Weekly Podcast with our host, Walter Latham, and our co-host, Michelle Sweeney McCombs. Voices in Society Impacting the Culture.
Hello all, and thank you for joining another episode of the Walt Weekly Live. I am your host, Walter Latham, along with the co-host, Michelle Sweeney McComb. Today's show represents the beginning of a goal that we've had to add more value and to do more deep dives into the problems facing the community. So what I'd like for y'all guys to do is stay tuned. And next week, we will be going further because we will be discussing spousal abuse. But today, we want to talk about ACS New York, or NYC ACS, the Administration for Children's Services. And we have guests that are being impacted by this agency. And today's show, has the ACS gone too far? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle so that she can bring in our guests.
Awesome.
Michelle?
Thank you. Thank you, Walter. Thank you. And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Walt Weekly Friday Live, sponsored by Black-owned businesses Beauty Blends by Ami, Soap and Love, and Michelle Sweeney Hair. Our outro and intro music is provided by Uncle Nephew and BD3. Today's Friday Live topic is, has ACS gone too far? We have a family on the show to share their experience with ACS and has now turned it into a movement. We have Eddie Bellis, his wife, Cable McNeil, and we also have activist Joseph Bailey. We also have our weekly panel that is in the house. We have Greg Coleman, our engineer, Nikki, and Christopher, and anyone else in the audience. We have our panel members. They can speak in the chat room, and Gregory Coleman will be answering them. So now I just would like to get started with Eddie. Can you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves and the individual projects? Eddie?
Peace, love, and light, everyone.
Yes, peace.
Yes, my name is Eddie Bellis, and I'm from the beautiful island of St. Lucia in the Caribbean. I am a father, a lover of children. I'd like to believe, and a love of people, a singer, songwriter, an aspiring author. And at this point, I would like to believe as well that I am an activist.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Welcome. Nikeba?
Hey, so I'm Nikeba McNeil. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And I am a mother, first and foremost. I have two beautiful children, Aaliyah and Shiloh, and a bonus daughter, Soleil.
Right.
And I'm also a musician, and I am also an author. I have a children's book that's coming out called Just Try. So please be on the lookout for that. And I'm just honored to be here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time. Can we have Joseph real quick, if that's possible? Joseph Bailey can introduce himself real quick.
Yes. My name is Joseph Bailey. I'm from South Carolina. I've been on a mission for the last 18 years to turn my mother's local legacy into a global phenomenon to actually change the entire world. And I found myself here in New York for the last few months, fighting and standing with my brother and my sister through this horrific case that they're going through. And a little bit more about me is I have a dream, TOOglobal.com is where you can find me. But we're currently on a capital campaign to rebuild America. And this is a focus of the campaign, dismantling CPS and ACS onto a brighter day and the end of terror.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for that intro.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone's. Thank you. Yes. I'll post everyone's information, social media handles, and websites in the chat room for you all to follow them. We appreciate it. We're going to just get started, get right into it, because I know you guys have things to do after this, and everyone wants to get their weekend started, right? So my first question to you all is, what transpired and why were you reported to ACS for Children's Services? Can you tell us about that?
I guess I'll start. Where do I begin? All right, so last year, 6/27/2020, I gave birth to my baby girl named Aaliyah Bellis. That's what we call her, Aaliyah Bellis. Yes. So when she first gave birth, no, I'm sorry. Somebody just...
No, it's okay.
When I first gave birth, the doctor said that there was something up with Aaliyah. She didn't come out crying like other babies. Mm-hmm. And so they first said that that she may have swallowed the meconium, and then they said there was something wrong with the umbilical cord, and that when they cut it, it severed. So they just really wanted to perform tests on her to see, I guess, what was actually going on with the baby. When I first had her, they put like this CPAP breathing tube attached to her face and in her nose, and they took her immediately to the NICU department. Okay, so fast forward about 3:00 in the morning, I get a phone call from physicians, and these physicians is basically telling me that my baby is very, very sick and in need of a blood transfusion and a lumbar puncture. Mm-hmm. So for me, when they tell me these things, and being that I just saw my baby, like when I went to the NICU department, she had like these tubes down her throat, her arms is waving. It was a horrific ideal to see. Mm-hmm. But them telling me this, I had to take a little moment. I believe in thinking about doing things before making a decision. So I immediately just got off the phone with them, and then I called my mom, and then she was like, well, they are doctors, whatever, just basically on the line of just do whatever they say because they're doctors. Right. And but something just didn't sit right with me at first, because they didn't tell me exactly what was going on with Aaliyah. It was just something like, she's very, very sick. She's very, very sick. So from then, I believe in prayer. I started to pray. Then I spoke to Eddie about it. And in the morning time, because I didn't consent around 3:00 in the morning, like it was like a majority, like I don't want to say majority, but it was like 5 physicians, I can say, that came into the room to try to get me to consent to the blood transfusion and the lumbar puncture. And we were still not consenting because we didn't get adequate information. Eddie asked that they write down a list of every single thing that they gave the baby, which they refused a couple of times. And then at one point, they did decide to write down what it is that they have given our baby. Now, it was written on a sheet of paper, the things that they have given her that they thought that she might have had, so they didn't know if she had it, but they was giving her medications for it. And then at one point it says that she needs heme blood, and she may need blood products, mild anemia. So it is something that went from, okay, well, your baby is very, very sick, to, okay, well, it's mild. So because we didn't get adequate information to make an informative decision, we decided not to go ahead with this blood transfusion. Especially, this is a newborn baby. You're taking something foreign and you're putting it into a newborn, and there's also risk with that as well. So I just didn't feel comfortable. So because of that, I noticed that it became less about the baby and more about what it is that they wanted to do. Because every time I would go inside to see Aaliyah, now, COVID hospital rules, when I was at Cohen Children's Medical Center, I was only able to see her in 2 slots for about 2 hours a day. right?
Wow.
So it was one slot around 1 o'clock, and the other slot was around like 9 o'clock. So I didn't get to stay with her the entire day.
Wow.
I had to go in, and when I was there, I just wanted to mainly focus on my baby. But every time that I'm there, I'm getting pulled out of the room, and they're trying to talk to me. They're psychiatrists, trying to examine my mind to see if like I'm here or if I'm competent. It was just a nerve-wracking thing, and I was often very, very like scared and nervous and anxious because like there's no lock on the hospital room door, so they could just come in at any moment and just try to get me and pressure me into giving my baby these medications. Now, because we did not consent, we didn't get any adequate information, the doctors, they twisted up our words, and they called ACS on us and basically said that we abused and neglected our newborn baby girl. And they not only added Aaliyah, they added my 4-year-old Shiloh, which was never even the topic of conversation because we never had any prior ACS cases in the past.
Right.
So now I'm getting these phone calls. I'm in the hospital. I'm healing. I just gave birth to a baby. My baby's in the NICU. I'm getting calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, some ACS workers. Then around 6 o'clock in the morning, my mom is calling me because since my address is on file for my mom's house, they're knocking at her door and she's scared. She's never experienced anything like that. So now they're asking for Shiloh, and I'm saying, okay, Shiloh's with his dad. I'm in the hospital. I can't speak right now. Like when I get out the hospital, maybe things can get handled, but I just gave birth to a baby. So anyway, it came to a point where the doctors told me, once I got discharged, the doctors told me when I went to the hospital that day that if I don't consent to the blood transfusion, then the doctors was going to do it for me. And then I told them which doctor is going to consent. So a doctor by the name of Natalia Boyer, she came out and she said, "Are you going to consent?" And I said, "No." I said, "If you give my baby this blood transfusion and something happens to her, I'm going to hold Long Island Jewish Hospital accountable for this." So when I went home and me and Eddie and Shiloh was at home, and I come back to the hospital, I can't go upstairs. I'm banned.
Oh,
what is going on? I try to put my email. I'm not my email. I'm sorry. I tried to put my identification ID in the system, and I'm banned from the hospital. Now all of a sudden, there is a woman of color that comes downstairs that's basically trying to give me a sheet of paper to tell me that my baby is in remand with the state, and that CPS has authority over my baby, and to call my social worker, Veronica Saintine. So at that point, me and Eddie is just like, what in the world? Like, we're about to call the police. Like, and it just, God is so good, because at that point, his mom called in the nick of time and just said, "You know what? Before it escalates, just get out. Okay, get out." So now this is how we're dealing with these people of ACS now, because now I can't go in the hospital to see my baby. I have to go through them. I called Veronica Saintine and I called Natalie Arthur, and they was like, "Well, we didn't have to take it this far. All we wanted to do was see Shiloh, and then the case would be done. That's all we want to do is see Shiloh, and that's it." Okay, well, my baby is in a hospital. I can't see her. All right, let's just let them see Shiloh, and then this will all be over. This is what they're telling me. So now I allowed them to see Shiloh in the hallway, and then this lady, Veronica Saintine, she's like, "Okay, well, no bumps and bruises. He seems to be fine." When we get back to court, we're like, "Wait a minute." When we go back to court, so then she's like, I said, "Well, Miss Arthur said that all they wanted to do was see Shiloh, and that would be it." Oh, well, I wasn't on the phone when that happened, and then she tries to serve us court papers, and at that point, I'm like, oh, man. So we refused the court papers because we didn't know what we were getting into. And then from there, they just been trying to come after our son to take him from us. I don't know how far I want to take it. If Eddie wants to take over, because
Eddie, yeah,
it's a long story.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't want to put you through too much here. All right.
Yeah.
I do have some questions, Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, Shiloh, what's the name of the baby, though? I don't want to get them confused, but I know you mentioned Shiloh. Aaliyah is your baby. Now, how did Shiloh get brought into this thing when they went to the house? I don't understand how Shiloh got brought in.
Exactly. So I think the people at the hospital, they ask you questions like, do you have any other children? Things like that. So when you say, okay, yes, I have another son or whatever, it's kind of like they used the fact that I had another son to basically bring him into the whole scenario. But before that even took place, we never had prior ACS cases in the past.
Right.
So we know that this is just specifically from the hospital, these physicians that are just trying to do whatever it is that they want to do and just throw ACS in as a distraction so that they won't get in trouble.
Wow. I see.
Yes.
And they went ahead with the transfusion anyway?
Yes, they went ahead with the transfusion. The funny thing is this. When I first found out about that, I asked who were the physicians that performed the blood transfusion, because I'm seeing Aaliyah at this point. Aaliyah's good. She's off the tubes now. I'm like, okay, well, she probably didn't need the blood transfusion. But then the doctor, Miss Vitalia Boyer, said, well, she did get the blood transfusion. I said, really? I said, who gave the baby the blood transfusion?
Right.
She says, well, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
All right. They're protecting themselves now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So she says, ACS gave the consent. So, okay, so I'm gonna call Miss Natalie Arthur. So I called her up, and then she says, well, the hospital gave the consent. So nobody's giving us answers.
Passing the buck.
I'm sorry.
Passing the buck.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's throwing me back and forth. I didn't get any answers. Yeah. And then at one point, Eddie asked the physician that was basically assigned over Aaliyah at one point, what was her blood count before and after the blood transfusion? And the physician said she doesn't know. She couldn't give an account as to what was her blood count. Now, if it was something that was very dire, if it was a life and death situation, then should not you have had, those documents ready? Should not you have had checked up to see, what her levels would be before and after? So it just doesn't sit right, with me.
Right. So when did you realize that, this is like above our heads, we have to get legal help? Like, when did you realize that? And how far gone was it? How long did ACS have custody of the children before you obtain a lawyer?
Okay, I'm gonna let Eddie take over this one. He's gonna respond.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, so as you are hearing the story, you would see that as you can see very, very clearly that it started in the hospital. That we went as parents to deliver our baby, our beautiful gift in the hospital. And what was supposed to be like a beautiful transition ended up being something that's very, horrific, from the eyes of our father,
Right.
from the hospital, not being transparent as they should have been to us, as the customers, and for them to go as far as calling ACS on us for asking simple questions. And one of the things I always like to impart and people, or try to employ people to do, is to gain knowledge of whatever, more knowledge on whatever you're going through. And with our situation, what happened is I was asking a lot of questions from the very start, because if somebody's telling me there's a problem, I want to know what the problem is. I'm the type of person I want to know what's the problem and what is the best way to go about it. Maybe we might need 3 or 4 different opinions, and then we come back.
Right.
Sometimes the doctors know best, and it's a dire situation where they got to do something immediately. And I respect the doctors for that. But when you don't give me the cause, or you don't give us what's going on, the problem, and then you just want to go and do something, there is reason for us to be suspicious and to ask information. So I think, but just by me asking information, it got the doctors to a point where it's like, how dare you ask me certain information? Is we want you to do this and you better do it, or else we're gonna find a way to do it. And that's what they did. They went around and they gave our baby the blood transfusion without our consent. So since they did that, they called ACS, and ACS came just like a mob, like a bully. When you call ACS, you asked the question earlier, why would my son be involved in something that happened in the hospital when he was miles away from the hospital? Is because when ACS comes into the picture, they try to build a case, and sometimes they have 90 days for them to build a case. And within that period, they go to the home, and how they try to investigate, what is going on in the house. Are the parents eligible? Eligible, fit parents. They wanna know about certain information. Can you provide for the babies, certain stuff like that. But with our situation, what was very unique about our situation, ACS never had access to our residents. They had access to Nikeba's mom, who was on file. So they went directly to Nikeba's mom, and they was trying to get information from her. And being that she had a previous encounter with ACS in the past, she just wanted to comply and just follow suit. But in that process, what happened is that there was a division where they're using her to come and try to get information, and they get information from her. And also they was telling her that if they see Shiloh, they would just let everything go, and everything would be done, dandy and merry. So I didn't consent at first, because I knew that in order for somebody to accuse me of something, you have to come with a verified claim, or you got to have a reason why you would come to me, And I never had no contract with ACS. I went to the hospital, that was it, and then next thing they call in my phone. So I said, I don't consent to any of this, but if you want to see my son, and then we're going to focus back on my daughter, because remember, my daughter is the one that's the priority right now. We're thinking about everybody, the family is praying for the baby, and now they want to focus it on Shiloh. I'm like, no, go back over there. So they wanted to get information on Shiloh, and then when we let them to see Shiloh, they saw out Shiloh. They said he was good. He doesn't look like he's scared. He doesn't look like he's abused. Like he's not fearful of his parents. So. And then they twist it over to say, that they saw him and they want to keep coming back again, because there's reason to believe there is something that's going on.
Wow.
But I say this to say that when you look at the number of cases that are going on right now in terms of ACS, you look like more than half of the children taken from families are placed in foster care, and that is it starts mostly with ACS coming in when they are being called. Most time in our communities, we find that if somebody don't like you have a beef with somebody, or a neighbor or something, most time they would call ACS, and ACS would come in, and they would find, sometimes it might be one little scratch they find, and they would just use that scratch to propel the investigation. With us, they had no verified claims, no proof. We had more than 90 days to investigate this, and they found nothing, because we was just at the hospital trying to deliver a baby, and we just said to the doctor, give us more information, let us know what is going on. We just want transparency, and by asking for transparency, they call the ACS. So immediately, as a father, I went into protection mode, because that's my family first and foremost. And what I wanted to do is to deal with those people, lawfully. That's what I would say, lawfully, because all what they was doing was illegal. So what we did is we wrote our own claims. We sent our affidavit to those people, because I have had encounters with law before. We had to deal with the law by sending my claims, because most people are unaware that you have the full right. There is no law that says that you cannot present yourself. And most times, like in the case of Transi versus Paquilero, the counseling brief is insufficient. He either has first-hand knowledge or he's given information about the case, meaning that when you seek an attorney, the attorney is getting the information for you to present it on your behalf. But as far as the best person to give the information is you. And that's one of the things that we employ people with this moment is to get engaged with the law, get familiar with the law, to learn the law. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So from the start, we took it in our initiative to write our own paperwork and to send it into the courts, because first and foremost, they said that we was present when they had the first hearing, and that was inaccurate because Nikki was still in the hospital and I was at home with Shiloh. So how was I in the courtroom when they started the proceedings and they said that, oh, there is probable cause or reasons to believe. There was not even no verified claims. It was just suspicious and assumption, and they went on to push orders for them to investigate my son and to say that we abused and neglected our baby girl.
Horrible.
It's horrible.
Horrible.
Yeah. Well, how long has ACS had your kids?
For Aaliyah,
can you mute your phones if you're not speaking, please? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a dog in the background. Yeah, so for Aaliyah, she was with ACS for 7 months. She just turned 7 months on the 27th of January. In Shiloh, it's 2 months. They actually arrested me. So I was in jail for about like a month and 2 weeks. With Aaliyah, the social worker, Veronica Saintine, they took her from out of the hospital and placed her in the children's center. So she was in there for about like 2 months until I was incarcerated, and then the judge finally decided to place her along with Shiloh with my mother.
How long after giving birth did they arrest you? Like how
Aaliyah had to be she had to be 3 months. 3 months, turning 4 months.
But she wasn't. Aaliyah wasn't with
October.
you at the time, though, was it?
No.
It's so funny because actually when I got arrested, I was at the children's center visiting Aaliyah and dropping off my milk because I was still pump, even though I gave birth. So I would pump at the hospital, give them the milk. And then when she moved to the children's center, I would pump and give the milk to the people at the children's center. So I was there visiting her for about the hour that I had to visit her. And then they called the police on me because of us not being in court and not consenting to these virtual court hearings, being that we weren't getting no type of justice in these virtual court hearings. They arrested me, and then they also arrested Eddie. But
what charges did they bring against you? If I can ask you, what charges or what? For what reason did they arrest you?
There is no charges. That's the most funny thing about it.
They gotta have. I mean, my understanding is 48. No. I'm not questioning you. Don't get me wrong. All right, the
order was
48 hours. They gotta have something, right?
I think I got this, Eddie. Well, what I was being told is I was being held on contempt of a court order. So the contempt of this was a civil matter. So it was no crime that was committed. I was being held because they wanted access to Shiloh, and because they remanded my first baby, we were in protection mode. So they saw him already. You understand? They saw him a couple of times when I would take him to the hospital to go visit Aaliyah and go upstairs. So because of that, they arrested me, and they were trying to just take my son at that point. So basically, then I got arrested, and something was wrong with the warrant. It didn't have any O&B numbers. That's like what they use to access it in the system. So the technician couldn't access it in the system. And then also the lawyer that they were trying to assign me said that he thought he can get the judge based off of the legalities of the warrant, which means that the warrant was not a legal document. Okay. Wow. So, the judge that was there, he asked me if I consented to the court hearing, but I said no because I don't know what crime I committed and was the injured party. So because of that, he said, well, say no more. I have jurisdiction, and basically you're to be remanded, and you're gonna go back to Queens Family Court the next day. So they remanded me, and they took me to Rikers Island, right? On a civil matter. They took me to Rikers Island. I was not indicted. I go in, the police officers that's there, the corrections officers, asking me my date of birth, my address. I'm telling them the correct information, because at that whole point I didn't say anything. I just stayed mute. But at that point, when I entered, I actually told them my actual date of birth and address, and they looked at me funny because it wasn't on their file. They had a whole different date of birth and a whole different address for me. So I said, wait a minute, this is not me. And I kept telling them it was not me. I didn't want to sign any paperwork. It was not me. I didn't want to go through this admission process. But I was threatened. They would throw me in a cell, take me out, tell me I wouldn't see the judge for days or weeks. And it was just a whole bunch of stuff going on. And they said I couldn't go to the judge in my civilian clothes. I need to change out the civilian clothes and put the inmate clothes on. If not, I can't see the judge. And I don't want to lose my job because of you. It was just a whole mess. So I ended up putting my fingerprints on 3 of the papers just so that I can change my clothes, but I didn't sign anything. So when I got to the court, I was chained to an inmate named Erica Balfour. And I went to court, and I was in the cell with her, but they moved me to another cell. And then after a while, I was staying there for a long, long time, and I got tired. I'm like, what's going on? So I started crying out. And then the officer comes and he looks me up in the system. He said, look, they messed you up. They can't find your name anywhere. They can't find your name anywhere in the system. This is not for Queens Family Court. It's for Manhattan Family Court. What?
No.
I started crying like a baby. Like, I really did, because I knew something wasn't right. So now they said, okay, well, when you go back, we're going to take you to Manhattan Family Court. Like, and I'm just crying. So then I get off the bus. And now I'm like, look, I'm not consenting to nothing else. This is not me. Something's not right. So they was like, oh, you have to. You gotta go through it. You have an attorney that's gonna call you and all this stuff. And I'm just not. And then all of a sudden, I have a virtual court proceeding. So I'm like, they said it was a mix up in the system or whatever. And now I have a virtual court hearing. So I'm telling the judge about it, about the warrant. She's not acknowledging it, and basically saying that that I know where my son was, and I didn't know where he was because I kissed him goodbye and I went on the train to go see my baby. And they basically said that because they have reason to believe I know where my son is, you're going to stay in Rikers Island another night. And then I'll let Eddie tell you the rest of the story, but the next day I had a court hearing, and because I didn't consent, they sent me to another place called Metlock. So I didn't consent to going through the new admissions process at Rosie's. So I told the people at Metlock that I had a court hearing this day at 11:30 a.m. It was adjourned, and they said, "Oh, you don't have no court. It's adjourned." So I'm like, "Wait a minute!" Like, and it's crazy. Like, it's a virtual court hearing in my mind. I'm like, "What's going on?" So that Monday or whatever, when Shiloh wasn't produced, they put a commitment order, and they just kept me in jail and used me as leverage until my son was brought back. And Eddie, he was free, and me and him was both free at the same time. That's what I learned. Me and him was both free.
So he got arrested at the same time as you did?
Yeah, or? He got arrested the following day. And I'll let Eddie tell you what happened at that court hearing, because I wasn't there. Remember, they told me that it was adjourned. So I'll allow Eddie to say what he has to say based on that.
That's what you call being in a bureaucratic red tape. But it's red tape, man, that hurts blacks and brown people more so than white people. And and so unfortunate for you. I'm so sorry to hear this. I really am. Eddie, can you come on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a movie, don't it?
It does.
Yeah.
A sad movie.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, it sounds like a movie. Hopefully, it can transition from a horror movie into a beautiful movie. You know, a beautiful fairy tale.
Beautiful ending.
Yes. But what I would like to say is under the COVID and the pandemic, what happened is they have virtual court hearings. And with the virtual court hearings, when you enter those virtual court hearings, the judge and whoever is on the other side, they control whatever goes on in that virtual court hearing, meaning that they can mute you, meaning that they would obstruct you from exercising your First Amendment right, which is freedom of speech. And what happened is each time that we went to court to try to settle the matter, they would mute us and not give us an opportunity to speak out. But
Okay.
what I was saying is with the virtual court hearings, because from day one, when we tried to settle the matter with ACS when Nikeba was out of the hospital, and we went to the virtual court hearings, because since it's a COVID pandemic, there is no courts that's happened where you can go to the building, so everything is virtual. And with the virtual court hearings, they can control a lot of things as far as even muting you and trying and preventing you from exercising your First Amendment right, which is freedom of speech. And we find that whenever we went to these virtual court hearings, we wasn't given an opportunity, to even present our side of the story, and even with that being said, when you look at the seriousness of what they're trying to accuse us of, when we look at the Fifth Amendment, it says that no person shall be held for capital or other in famous crime unless presentment of indictment or grand jury. And we always been asking them, to for a grand jury and to prove jurisdiction, and they never gave us, not any moment they have never proven that. Neither have they. We've been presented with an opportunity to go before grand jury and to present our case. And also when Nikeba got incarcerated, she was there for like a month and a half.
Wow.
And
Long time.
they had no. She committed. She it was a civil matter. Had they had no one to say to come before the court and say that she injured anybody, or there was an injured party, or that we caused any property damage to anybody, or financial damage to anybody. So if there was none of that on the table, what is, we just asking the question, what is it that you are really saying? If you say we abuse our baby, where is the person that can come forward and say this is this and this is that, and we can say, okay, this is what happened? We have never been given the opportunity to speak. Neither they have presented any verified claims, any evidence to say that we neglected or we abused our baby. And I want to just go back just a little bit.
Wow.
Because this started in the hospital, and we have reasons to believe that the hospital is hiding something, and they're trying to cover it up with ACS. Because when you look at Nikeba, she had a vaginal birth, and somewhere down the line, when we had a meeting with the ACS people, they said that she had a C-section. And that is inaccurate information. Also, the date that my baby was born, they had another date on file. So we have reason to believe that there was some medical practice or something, like we say in the Caribbean, something ain't right with the milk. Something is wrong in the milk. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds like criminal.
Yes. So we have reason to believe there's medical malpractice. Now, dealing with the courts, if somebody makes a claim against you, you have a right. Anybody can make a claim, but you have a right to come before the court and ask the person to present the claim. And also, if the person have a claim, then who has the superior claim? In this situation is me and Nikeba. This is our property. And when I say property, I want to use property in the right context, because property in law means what is proper to your person,
right?
For your enjoyment, exclusive to all others in society.
Right.
So this is the type of claims we have been presenting to these people, the type of arguments that we be presenting to them. And each time that we went on the virtual court hearings, it's always the same agenda. They always want to push something. They want to see my son. They want to do something. So we told them that we're not going to consent, because we never consented from the jump, and we said we're not going to continue to come to the virtual court hearings and be railroaded every time. So we told them, and we say, for the record, let the record show and reflect that we're not going to be coming to this virtual court hearings we also went and seek counsel, and also counsel said that you don't have to admit to this virtual court hearings. You can wait until the courts reopen again, and that is also part of their rules and regulations. So we said we wanted to do. Yeah, to do that rather than be in virtual court hearings, and because we hold a stand that we do not consent to the virtual court hearings, that was the reason why they placed an order, a warrant, so that they can come to arrest Nikeba, and then the following day after they arrested Nikeba, they came and they arrested me. But at that time, my son was not with me because I was wise enough to know that if you take Nikeba, then that means you coming for me too. So I stood on my square. Like somebody would say, I fled. I had to do what I had to do, because the reason why I say that is because when those people came, like the first time they came down into our build, in our space, they came like they was coming for a criminal.
Yeah,
they
about
came
8 of
with,
them, I guess.
Yes, it was more than 8, and trust me, the whole block is shut down. You have cars on the block, like it's yes. We reside in Queens. The whole block is shut down, and they come in and like barging in there that's their property, like their house. You know what I'm saying? And for what reason? For a civil matter. You understand me? I haven't committed no crimes. You cannot prove anything that any of your accusations, any of your charges. There is nothing that you can prove. Why are you coming at me like that? So for me was to bear in mind how traumatic that would have been for my son to witness him put in that position where his father would be taken down and he would be taken by gangs of police officers. Even today, he's still traumatized. When you say police, he gets so scared. Understand me? It's because he was traumatized by that. Yes.
Horrible. So what's the status of your children right now? Are they still in the system, or?
Well, they are placed. They are placed with Nikiba's mom, and Nikiba was in there for a month and a half. And while she was there, she called me, and I was away, protecting my son. And when she called me from the prison and told me at one time to bring the baby to my son to her mom's. And I wrote a letter to the court being that I'm under threat and duress because they had the U.S. Marshal coming at me. The U.S. Marshal had seven cases, and one of my cases was me. He was looking for me. And he said all of the cases that he have on his desk right now are all actually criminals that actually killed somebody. And he was looking at my case, and he said something didn't make no sense about my case. And he's looking at me. He's looking at my profile, studying me, and he says like, no. I am this kind of person, and if you Google my name, you're gonna find music. So he's like, this doesn't fit like the type of people that he normally go and hunts. So you have a system that is actually allocating funds to the U.S. Marshal to go and look for someone on a civil matter. You know what I'm saying? I say that's a waste of funds of taxpayers' dollars. And wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
We do. We do.
Wow.
So because I when she called me, I went back and brought the baby Charlotte to her mom, and I wrote a letter to the court saying I don't consent. But being that the U.S. Marshal is looking for me and they're coming at me with guns blazing, I am not under threat and duress. So I don't consent. But because I'm under threat and duress, I will do this. So right now they are with Nikeba's mother, and Nikeba can see them, I think, for 4 hours a day, and they have totally given me no opportunity to see my babies at this point. And they even try to talk or try to say that they want me to only see them virtually and also through ACS, meaning that somebody will have to be there to sit down for me to monitor even the virtual call that I would have, which I don't consent to.
Unreal. Wow.
So and right now, since the marshals were looking for you, did you ever turn yourself in? Are they still looking for you, or have you resolved that matter?
So this is the thing. Since it's a civil matter, his warrant was vacated as soon as Shiloh was produced to my mother. So that means that he doesn't have any charges.
Excellent.
The warrant, which is for them to seize and get my son.
Right.
And if they would have caught him, he probably would have went to jail, but he would have got out because there's no crime committed. And the thing about it is that, like, I was under a lot of duress as well in jail. I could not take it anymore. Every day I would go there and it would be just a whole scenario about Eddie and Shiloh and whatever it is that they're doing. But they were taking the focus off of me and putting it on them, not knowing that I was in there suffering inside of these rooms and basically in a cage. And then I was put with criminals who happened to be very inspiring, by the way. But once they found out that I wasn't a criminal, since I told you that there was something wrong with the warrant, they immediately moved me from that section and put me in a cell by myself.
Traumatized.
So yeah, it was a lot. So I couldn't take it anymore. And it's so crazy because me and Eddie was both released the following day when they told me that the case was adjourned. But for some reason, they kept me inside of jail the entire time while Eddie was able to be free. So we know that it was just injustice all over the place. They even wanted to release me on an ankle monitor and turn a civil matter into a criminal one, and said that if I was to violate any of these terms, I would go to jail and be indicted for 6 months on each violation that I violated, and use that as an excuse as to why they kept me in jail so long. And because I didn't want to take the ankle monitor, they said they have reason to believe I know where my son is. And I did not. I didn't. And I didn't want to give up my son. I mean, that's my baby. You're trying to take my baby from me for no reason. I didn't use any of the phones. I didn't talk to anybody. So I really didn't know what was going on the outside. So at one point I just got really, really tired and I didn't want to be in jail no more. So I just contacted Joseph Bailey, who was who's been advocating for us this entire time and this entire process. And I really appreciate him for doing that. I called him and immediately he got me in touch with Eddie. And Eddie, I just told him, look, we'll handle it when I get out. Just bring Shiloh to my mom's house. It's going to be all right. So that's what happened.
Wow. So with all of this going on, are you guys still independently representing yourselves, or do you have legal counsel? Also, family support and support from the community. How have you been funding this for yourselves?
Yes, we definitely seek counsel, because that's the thing I always tell people when people ask us that question. We always seek counsel, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, our people perish because of a lack of knowledge. If a lot of things that we know certain things, and we can stand on our square, a lot of us will not find ourselves, in certain situations. Because when you know of the law, then it's your duty to force those people that sworn on the oath to abide by the some laws that they said they was going to abide by. So it's our duty to let them, to have them enforce those laws, or practice the same laws that they hold an oath or swear on the Bible to uphold. It's our duty to force them to uphold it. So with that being said, we do seek legal counsel all the time. But with the cable situation, I never seek legal counsel. I never had nobody represent me, because a lawyer can only represent a fictitious entity. And all of this stuff I'm saying, you can quote me and then you can go on and research it for yourself. You can only represent a fictitious entity. And we coming into the courts like on the common law. Like I'm a man, I'm a woman. Can you show me where that I did something wrong? Because I love to abide by the law. And can you show me where that I did something wrong? And if somebody has a superior claim, present it under the penalty of perjury that we did something wrong, and then okay. But nobody isn't doing that. Also, Nikeba, while she was locked up, she attained 2 or 3 attorneys, and all of them was trying to force her to go against the same thing she was fighting for, meaning that they was not advocating for her. Because when you look at it, most of the attorneys, especially the public defenders that we have in our system, which is kind of corrupt, though they are paid by all of them, the lawyer, the judge, the prosecutor, they all paid by the state. And most time they are members of the bar, and most time they only bring plea bargains. To you, or this is what it is, or this is, and then you got to follow suit. But most of the time, it's not never in our favor. That's why I had a rude awakening a few years ago when I was arrested for driving without a license, and I got in there and I saw the amount of young men, a black man that's going in prison by the second. It's like a factory that's really they say, oh, this is what it is, and if you don't do this, you might face 10 years. So it's like the fear factor is instilled, and then you just rush and you take it, and then you find yourself on probation, and then the probation is if you ever sleep for just 1 second, then they have full rights.
Right.
Yes.
There you go.
To put you back in there, and now you serving real time now, and now under the 14th Amendment, anytime you are a prisoner, you are a slave. You have no rights.
You have no rights.
So slavery system continues into the system. So I say all of this to say that because I like to as I go along, I'm still learning as well. But I would like to say that because we have been calling around for lawyers. Joseph Bailey. I would like to say he's been doing a great job. He been calling lawyers and trying to have a lawyer because at one point we was like, you know what? Sometimes when you go there by yourself, they don't give you no respect. So sometimes we said, you know what? Let us try to see if we can get a lawyer. He went around calling lawyers and lawyers and lawyers and lawyers, and some of them would take the case, watch it, and then come back and they don't want to take the case. Or some of them who took the case said, nah, because of your situation and how real you are as a person, if I take this case, then I would have to make a deal behind your back. This is how the system works. You understand me? So this is our experience. I don't know about other people, but this is our experience. What I am. It's a rude awakening for me for learning certain things. But as far as I'm seeking legal counsel, we always seek legal counsel. We always ask lawyers, what do you think about this? What is it about this? We listen to a lot of them, and then we ask questions, and they tell us like we're doing the right thing. We're on the right path. But is to get the respect and to stand always on your square. Because if you're on the right side, I would tell most people, you know the law, you know what's right. When somebody pull you over for something, you can say, hey, what law says this? What law can you prove to me that says that I have to have, or I must be fluent in legalist term, or I must be a part of the bar, or I must be a part of your legal society? So for me to present my claim, there is no law that says that you present your claim. But we have to let the people be empowered so that they can continue to do the same thing that we do. Stand up for yourself, stand up for your rights. And then with that being done, with more people doing that, then we're gonna see a change. I hope it's a reform in the justice system. You know, so because we are in dire need of one right now. When you find that you have people that's being placed into prisons, or people that have situations like ours, you understand, like our situation is 1 out of 8,000, and you have people that's in this situation and they get legal help. Because all the people that we have met on this journey, they all sick. They all took lawyers, and the process that the lawyers put them through, it took them a longer period of time for them to get the babies back. Yes. So like I was saying, when you look at the amount of cases that we have come in contact with, we find that most of the people, or we have family members that have gone through the same things, you know what I'm saying? Because we say that, and that's why we say that this is something that this generation have to break. This is a generational curse. If it is, we are the generation that we feel that is in the Aquarius age, meaning that we have information at our fingertips where we can, if you want to find out something, you can just Google it on your phone and find out some information about anything. Just empower yourself. You understand? So since we are the generation that have all that information, it's imperative that we learn certain things, especially about our rights. So on this journey, we have met people that have seek legal counsel, legal aid, and the process that they went through for them to get back the babies is a longer process. Yeah, it's a longer process because Nikeba got an uncle that have that's in a situation, his wife, and it took them about I think 3 years to get the baby back, and then also there's still one baby. I think it's 5 years, and there's one baby that's not, I think it's 18 years and still haven't been brought back to them. They place them in the foster system, and we know the foster system is all incentivized, is all monetized. You know, people make like almost the federal government puts like $10,000 to one household for one foster child. So we know that is a system that's been milked. Yes, and when you talk about attorneys, that's a tricky word because attorney can only represent a fictitious entity, and also attorney that really don't really have your support. And most time they asking us for some ridiculous money that we don't really have, like just for startup fees. And some of them, they will take the case, and maybe they went in there, spoke to someone, and maybe it's on their side, and the person said, okay, don't do this or whatever. But we have reason to believe that it's all it's all against us. So that's why we have made the decision, based on our experience, to present ourselves. Because like I said, it's lawful to do that. You know what I'm saying? There's no law that say you cannot do that. No judge cannot tell you cannot present yourself. Most time they want you to get an attorney because they can manipulate the attorney, and that's what we have found out with Nikeba's case when she went in there on a civil matter, and then you telling me, Nikeba, you gotta take an uncle monitor, and if you come and contact with Eddie Bellas, now you're setting a wedge between the two of us, and saying if you contact with Eddie Bellas, then and you gotta fix 6 months for this, 6 months for that. And that's attorneys advising her to do this. So that's why when people say, "Oh, you need to get an attorney," we tell them, "Yes, thank you. We seek legal counsel, but at the same time, with our experience, we have decided it's best in our best interest so we can present our case because no one can say it like we said. No one is going through what we're going through. We are the ones that are suffering damages. Our children are the ones that's been abused because when you take a rose from a plant and you carry it away, it's a beautiful rose, and you give it to your loved one. After a few days, that rose is gonna die in your hands. It's gonna die. So we know they are the ones inflicting the pain and the wounds. They are the ones that are abusing. We have never done no such thing. I love children too much. You understand me? If I'm to ever think about abusing my baby, or just asking a question. So that's like I said. I get a little passionate sometimes when I get into this stuff.
Fine.
Yes.
It's okay. So I know you guys recently had a protest done at the Queens County Courthouse, right? Were there other parents there, or there were just people there to support you? Other parents that are in the same situation as you.
Yes. I would like to correct that because we did we showed up like mostly what would happen in a court is like you would present your claim to the court clerk, and the court clerk is supposed to get the claim and to present it to all parties that it is trying to present their claims. So everybody knows when it's court day what you have to say and and I know exactly what they're saying to me. So what happened because of the COVID pandemic in the courtroom, the clerks are not coming downstairs to come and get the claims. So we decided, since we live in a world of information era, we was going to record all our trends, get receipts, meaning that we're gonna send it through the mail first, get our receipt from the post office, certified mail with return receipt. Also, we posted it on our page that we was gonna go to the court and to deliver it and have people who want to come in to come join us to see that we actually doing, because the community is supposed to be part. When you have a case, it's the court's supposed to be accessible to the public. It's just made for the people because the people build the court. Our ancestors build those courts, so we have to have access to these courtrooms. So we went there with a verified claim. I mean, with our claims, and we told them we was coming, and we showed up, and we went there twice, and then we recorded it, for our proof and our receipts, and those people they never came downstairs, but we have it on record. But because we've been so active in doing stuff, we met people that was telling us, "Oh, this is what that they're going through certain things." And also, Nikeba have a quite interesting story how she met with one activist that she met through a mutual friend, and she is someone that walks around like saying "F-U ACS" and puts on rallies. So she was able to, hear our story, and then because she normally puts rallies around the city, we was able to have a rally in Harlem where we were able to at least perform, because we are musicians, so we perform, and also we had a chance to like give our story, and it was a great turnout.
I see that you have a GoFundMe page. How's that going? I didn't get a chance to look at it today, but I'm going to look at it afterwards.
The GoFundMe, it went well in the start. It has really helped us. We are very thankful for each and every person who has donated to the GoFundMe. Thank you guys, because
is it still up and running, or it's closed now?
I'm sorry?
Is it still up and running, or is it closed?
Oh yes, it's still up and running. It's Justice for Aaliyah and Shiloh. I can spell it out for you. Justice.
You can put it in the chat room.
Okay, yes, I will.
All right, do we have that information on their bios, Michelle?
Yes, I have everything in PDF, definitely.
Okay.
Also, one more thing, Eddie, in reference to Joseph Bailey, how is with the activists, how has he impacted with helping you guys out with the case? Can we hear from him, or real quick, or?
Yeah, Michelle, you had a question for Joe, or?
Yes, I just wanted to know because their situation is becoming a movement, as we spoke privately about. Can you give us a little information on the movement? What outcome do you expect from it, and what advice can you give other parents that are going through this, that they can reach out to you as an activist and to help with the cause as well?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the time. Before I get to that, I just want to make three points that they mentioned. I just want to just clarify so everybody clearly know.
Yes.
Number one, this was a civil matter like they spoke of, and he spoke about the U.S. Marshal actually getting involved. And I was the one that the U.S. Marshal was coming to. And the number one thing he said to me was, I have 8 cases on my desk. 7 of them are murder cases. 1 of them is Eddie. And he said they gave him a full budget to go after Eddie and find him. And the pressure that they put on me, the family, we knew they were trying to kill or silence Eddie and Nakeba. And I'm speaking those words because I was a part of it. And I know the level of the terror that they brought to the table. So I want to clearly identify that. The second one is, all the political people and lawyers know about this. I started off calling the Mayor de Blasio, the mayor of New York. We called his office first. And then what he did was, after learning about the case, he said, we need to contact Governor Cuomo's because he has jurisdiction over it. Okay, and so Cuomo office, they gave us lawyers. We contacted the lawyers. And all of the lawyers really, to me, was just gaining information and finding out what level of a commitment that the family have. So anyway, just make a long story short is they all know about what's going on, and they have not done anything with it. It's simply because of the level of corruption that is connected to it. Those are facts. The third point that I'm gonna make real quick is the first day when they called me and I came down here. Nakeba and Eddie was sitting on the couch and I'm standing up, and Nakeba, her phone was ringing, and I'm looking at her. I'm like, why is you answering the phone? She just shaking. And it's Veronica Santine, and she just like shaking, and she just had to hang the phone up quick. That's when I first learned the direction of the terror. This was months ago. And all I want to say for the audience, anybody that's listening, that terror has not stopped all the way up to an hour before this call. So please know, I want anybody that's listening, the hell is on this family, and it's because of the information they have, what they know, all the proof and all the evidence that they have to prove that New York City, if not the most corrupt city, is definitely a major city of corruption through the family court. Now, going to what do we want and what we're doing with the movement. The first thing we want is we want oversight for Queens Family Court that is going to extend to the New York State Family Courts, period. When they open up the stories, a saint is going to want to sin from the level of terror that they do every single day. So the first thing we want is Governor Cuomo to know what he already knows, that we want oversight on Queens Family Court. That's number one. Number two is the U.S. Family Court reform. Basically a new U.S. model as a role model for the world that we can actually implement through the family court system, changing it. And then the third one is dismantle and release 8,000 plus children and parents with checks. We want not only them to be released, but we want them to get a check for damages to start their life over, because they have definitely murdered people through this. They have harassed people. They have threatened people. If you know the level of terror that this, and I'm speaking it, this is me saying it, that Nakeba's mother is dealing with right now, because she has to deal with them. So the level of what I want to say to everybody that has dealt with CPS and ACS is 2 things. Number 1 is family. Right. Do not separate. Do not fight. Do not allow the system to tell you that this person is wrong or that person is wrong. That's what they do. That's how they get over the top to be able to do what they're doing. And the second thing is please, please, please support every mother and every father that's going through this, because they don't have a life. They're superstar artists. They're not only just, I can go on and on about what their value is. They can't even do it because they're so caught up in this drama, in this hell that they didn't ask for. They just had a child and they saw an immigrant and a black woman, and they saw an opportunity to take advantage, and they did, and they started off ASAP when they had the child, and they immediately went after the second child. So it's just a system of corruption that turns into the pipeline of human trafficking, all funded through the government of the United States of America through taxpayers' dollars. So that's all I want to say. But please support this family. This family is not just worrying about themselves. They haven't worked in the cable. The same day when the cable was shaking, I asked her, I said, tell me how you doing, the cable. I'm worried. Tell me how you doing. She said, when I have to be good, because this is bigger than me. And so I want everybody to know, you're not just supporting somebody that's been wrong. You're supporting a family that has stood up against the big bad bully and the enemy and the one that has been putting all this terror across the United States of America. That's why I'm asking you to support this family, because they want all the families that went through what they went through is to get justice. And thank you for this opportunity for their story.
Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And
blessings.
Can
you all?
I just have one more question from the cable. When you spend that time at Rikers and they picked you up, did they clear your record, or are you in the system now? And
honestly,
Eddie, also are you in the system? That's what I like to know.
Honestly, I have no idea. I was hearing stories that they were putting different charges every time that they would look me up in the DOC. Attempted murder charges, misdemeanor. This is what I'm hearing from Eddie and Bailey, because they will look me up in the system to I guess like they have to have a reason as to why I'm incarcerated. But this is what I'm hearing. But other than that, I don't know. Like when I got out of jail, like that process, they go through something, I believe it's called premonitions. I hope I'm saying it right, but they go over like who you are to make sure that the person that's leaving the jail is the actual person. So now they're asking me again, like my date of birth and my address and things like that. And I'm telling them my correct address, and they're like, no, like that's not it. Like you better learn what's on this paper. They're threatening me because I'm telling you the truth. He's like, you better learn what's on this paper, because if you don't know what's on this paper and you get to that other building to tell the officer there, then you're not going home. You're going to stay here. So that's basically crazy. they're telling me to lie, and because I want to tell the truth, they're saying that like I have to be psych evaluated, or I have to go to some place called Elmhurst or whatever, because I'm telling them the truth. Like I don't live there. My birthday is not 9/17/1994. And it's so crazy. So
they're trying to put you in someone else's spot. Sounds
Exactly. So when I got to the place, I had to basically, I was forced to tell him what it was, because she said, if you don't tell him what's on this paper, you're going back in the van. That's what she told me. So I told the man what was on the paper, and then when she left, I told the man that, look, that lady basically told me, what it was, like that if I don't tell you this, then I will go back in the van. So and then he was like, well, what you told me at the door was accurate. So it's kind of like, well, what so it's everything is set up, And then when I went to go get my belongings, I went to get my cell phone. I had to put my code in the cell phone, because if I didn't tell them my correct information, I couldn't get my cell phone. So what they did, when I put my code into the cell phone and I showed them my ID, they had to update my information in the system so that I can be cleared to get my belongings and stuff. So as far as me having a record, I don't know, honestly.
Wow. All right. Yeah.
That's horrible.
I would like to add something to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with when you're dealing with ACS, what we have learned is that they put you on a chart. So as far as going in society and getting a job, it's almost like you have a scar, and that stays with you. I think is for like about I think 10 plus years, eight years, I believe. So anytime you have a case of neglect or abuse with ACS, it's like that defamation of character instantaneously. So as far as we have any criminal records, we're not criminals. We have no criminal records. But as far as defamation of character, that is definitely taking place where you cannot get a job. You are viewed like an inmate. So it's like there's a parallel when you look at the prison system and and the and ACS the child care system. You know what I'm saying? Where children are strip search, just like inmates are strip search, where you have you know what I'm saying they give you a bag.
They take your photo and all this kind of stuff.
Yes. So as far as we have in charges, we don't have no charges. But as far as defamation of character and for us trying to get a job into the society, they have definitely made it very hard for us to do that.
All right.
So basically, we're put on the state central registry.
So if you want to go to apply for a job, that's going to show up.
It's going to show up if they do a background check. If I can't work with children, even though I'm coming out with a children's book. So it's they defamed our character. So I mean, it's kind of like they try to put you in a lifelong route to poverty, but I rebuke that. You know?
Keep on fighting. We're praying for you guys. Definitely.
So I want you guys to give out all your information. I've been posting it in the chat, your social media and websites, and the movement information if you have that as well. Can you give that to our audience?
Okay. Now that's going to be attached to Sunday when we release this episode. All of that information will be embedded along with the podcast. So you look at the podcast notes, you'll see all the information that you provided to Michelle.
Okay. Right. We'll post that on Sunday. So we appreciate you guys. We're praying for you. And give your final words. Close it out.
Yes, I'll be remiss if I didn't say all praises due to the Most High, because He's been keeping us. When I believe, like when I finish write this book, or when this movie is being told on probably a television screen, you know what I'm saying, you would see that the Most High of God was involved in every instance of the situation. Even when I went on the run with my son, when they was trying to get me, and I'm right close to them, and they just cannot see me. So I don't know if they needed some blood. But so I want to give praises, all praises to the Most High for just holding us down. Even those people going through it right now, and and they say they just find strength and just knowing that God is still alive and He's still working, through us. So we are grateful for you all for just giving us another opportunity for us to be able to share our story. Hopefully that can impact somebody, or somebody can take something out of this, because we are just one out of many. But we thank you all tremendously. We appreciate you.
We thank you for coming on. Thank you. Prayers and strength to you.
All right, we're really pushing up against the clock, Michelle. But
yes, you're gonna close out.
Everybody know. No, I'm gonna let you do it. You do it better than me.
Okay, so you give your final words.
Yeah, my final words is, I just want to thank our guests. They're going through something that none of us. It's a nightmare, and I can tell it's a nightmare. And we're going to pray for them and wish them the best. And we want them to come back on the show when they straighten this up. They get it once they fight the battle, and the war is won. We would like to have them come back. All right. In the meantime, y'all guys follow, share, and like, so we can bring you more of this, because there's a lot of these stories out there that we need to tell, and that's what we're dedicated to doing. All right, bringing out the truth. Okay, and we'll turn it over to Michelle.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Ukeba. Thank you, Joseph, for being on our show. Thank you to our guest panel for listening in. Thank you to our audience for joining the Walk Weekly Friday Live. You can follow us at www.thewalkweekly.com. We are on Facebook and IG, The Walk Weekly, Twitter, Walk Weekly, Podbean, The Walk Weekly, iTunes Podcast, iHeartRadio, and now Pandora and other streaming platforms. We thank you all for your participation. Thank you for supporting us. Have an awesome weekend. Be safe and stay blessed.
Thank you. Stay blessed.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. God bless.
Thank you. God bless. Be safe.